Hello and welcome to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video I'll be thinking about how we can all tackle an unseen poem in just 4 easy steps. So let's kick off with step number 1. You need to read and annotate the question. What does it actually want from you? Well, let's kickstart with this question. In warm summer sun, how does the poet present the speaker's feelings about the weather? Now, the key words that I'd pick out are the title of the poem, the fact that I'm asked how the poet does it, not just what the poet does, and I'm thinking about how the speaker's feelings about the weather are shown. I just need to get a sense of what these key words mean before I go on. So I'm looking at how the weather's presented in the eyes of this speaker, and I'm thinking about why and how the poet does that. So, next up, I'd read the poem for understanding. Warm Summer Sun by Mark Twain. It doesn't matter if I don't know who the poet is. In this case, I actually do know who it is. It's a famous writer, an American one. But it doesn't matter if you don't get them at all. The big things to notice are the title and if there's a trend and a link between the title and what you're reading. You're just trying to work out what it's all about. Warm summer sun, shine kindly here. Warm southern wind, blow softly here. Green sod above, lie light, lie light. Good night, dear heart, good night, good night. Straight away I'm already clocking there's only one stanza and I'm trying to work out now what I could be doing with this poem. All I've understood is it's about the sunshine, and at the start it's like the sun is being called and at the end it's like, I don't know, the sun's gone to sleep. So now what I'd say is the next step comes from you annotating the poem. And you have to consider it in terms of these 4 steps. What patterns could I spot within the language that connects to the theme of the weather? What atmosphere does Twain present in that poem? Does the atmosphere change from the start to the end of that short poem? And what could Twain's intentions be? Now, I would take a few minutes to plan that and think about those 4 elements around the annotations I put on the poem. But for now, I'm just going to model for you what kinds of annotations I have come up with as if that's sped up for you. So instantly I'm aware that the speaker is personifying the sun through the adverbs kindly and softly. The repetition of warm, whether it's warm summer sun or warm southern wind, it's as if there's a personality to the weather, and actually there's a bit of pathetic fallacy there in that we're learning that the sunshine is associated with joy, so we're thinking there's some sort of hope in this. There's also an imperative mood of shine kindly, blow softly. It's like, help me, be there. It's a commanding thing. It's specific as well. I haven't highlighted it, but the repetition of here, it seems as if this is a specific moment on the speaker's life. I'm getting that trend that repetition is quite important to the poet in terms of the way they use it through their speaker. You've also got the natural imagery that you'd expect that links the sun to fertility and growth, as you see with the connotations of green in nature. We've also got natural imagery through the sunshine and the image of the green. Green sod is like soil that's green. We've also got in line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the alliteration of lie light, which is repeated, and it signals quite a change in tone. I don't know, I'm wondering here, is this about the sun setting? Because the light is lying, it's getting lower. And the fact that's confirmed for me is by the repetition of good night. Is this to say that the warm summer sun is now going to sleep, if you like, so that's why the speaker says good night. Now I'm asked to consider how the speaker feels about the weather. So I know now that my next stage has to be, from these annotations, I have a broad plan of how I'm going to comment. So let's crack on and think about how I'd consolidate those annotations into a quick plan that would do me really proud. So I've only got about 25 minutes to actually do the writing for this response. So I've got to make sure that every paragraph is punchy and hits the criteria exactly. Now, for the benefit of giving you an insight into how I would craft my topic sentences, these might seem a bit wordy and I've crafted them as a plan, but in the exam you might not need that. All you'll need is to hit these things that I've labelled from A to D. So the first thing I'd consider is the significance of the title and through the language of the poem. So this would be the kind of topic sentence we could use. Twain's poem, Warm Summer Sun, depicts a speaker who's seeking comfort from the sun, as echoed through the personification in the title and across the poem. I'm saying there's a link between the title and there is a relevance to it. There's something going on that mirrors this importance from the kindly adverb and the use of adverbs across that are personifying it, and it's suggesting that we're getting some sort of personality and pathetic fallacy from it. I'd also then move on to think more about language trends. What other semantic fields are shared? Why has the poet done this? So Twain, I'd say, reinforces the idea that the speaker is in awe of the weather and its power as the imperative mood is used to call upon the weather. And I'd be thinking about the way that shine and blow are used in lines 2 and 4 of this poem and the significance of that. I'd also, if I have time now, move on to this additional paragraph on language trends. Now, if you don't have time, sack this off. You haven't got time. But I'd consider, what is the effect of the imagery that's shared? Is there a metaphor, and what's its link? So to me, there seems to be this weird metaphor of how the sun might be mirroring the speaker's life. So I'm saying here, additionally, the speaker in Twain's poem conveys their love of the weather through the semantic field of nature and its impact or mirroring on their life. Now, it's irrelevant right now if you would have got all these points. What's important is that you know what you could be hitting in terms of the comments the examiner is seeking for you to mention or hint at in your response. Now, finally, no poetry response would be successful without commenting on the structure. So I need to think about the structure of the poem. What does it look like? That's called graphology, the study of what things look like. But also, is there a rhyme scheme? Now here I can't see a tidy rhyme scheme. So instead I talk about the fact it's only one stanza. It's all blocked together and there's a change across that poem. And I'd say something like this. Ultimately, this poem is composed of one stanza and is 8 lines long, reflecting the journey perhaps of the sun across the day. Now your magic word in English analytical writing is perhaps. And I'm saying here an additional sentence for you. Perhaps Twain does this to mirror the way the weather ages, like a person does. You're trying to find something deeper in the poem. It might sound basic. A lot of these poems have a literal meaning, but for you to hit the top bands, to get your 7, 8 or 9 on this particular question, you're looking to go to a metaphorical, more impressive, deeper level. So remember, your priority in your writing is to mention the title. Comment on language trends, not just one-off words that you spotted. The effects of the imagery that you're getting. Is there a metaphorical meaning? Yes, there probably is. Look for it and find something more reflective to say. That's what gets you into top bands. And finally, don't forget the structure. It's a really important thing that you make it clear to the examiner. You get that poets do things on purpose. Even if you really don't buy into it, for the purposes of your GCSE or your A-level, just make sure you reference it. Ultimately, how you need to tackle an unseen poem is by annotating that question, checking you know what it wants from you, reading it to make sure you've understood some of it, and hopefully all of it, but under pressure our minds do mad things. You're annotating the poem, checking if you can spot any language patterns. That could be within word class, it can be to do with semantic fields, that's connections of words that are linked. It could be to do with the sheer nature of the imagery you're picking up. What's the atmosphere that you're getting in this poem? Does it change? Like in the poem that we've just looked at, the poem has changed the atmosphere as the day has progressed, it would seem. And what could the poet really be saying? Why have they done this? And ultimately, your job is to make sure you have 3 to 4 paragraphs so that you are fulfilling the criteria of language and structure. Best of luck, and I hope you nail it with any unseen poem. Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?